I am Sador of the Malmori. I have come with my forces to conquer you. If you resist, I will crush you.
In September 1980, Battle Beyond the Stars was released in cinemas in the USA and was later released in February of 1981 in the UK, produced by the low-budget movie mogul Roger Corman's New World Pictures, originally titled Battle Amongst the Stars. However, this was changed during production. Corman had distributed in the wake of the worldwide success of Star Wars the cash-in Star Crash in 1978. However, Corman had a desire to make a space opera-style film of his own. He asked up-and-coming screenwriter John Sayles, who had already written the Corman-produced The Lady in Red and Piranha, which were both a financial and critical success, to write the screenplay, which is essentially a remake of The Magnificent Seven, which in turn was a remake of Seven Samurai. This provides the framework for the plot. The Akira, a peaceful alien race at the centre of the conflict, were named in honour of Seven Samurai's director Akira Kurosawa. At one point, Psycho 2 director Richard Franklin was attached to direct. However, he was replaced by Jimmy T. Murakami, a veteran animator who had previously been an uncredited co-director on Corman's Humanoids from the Deep. Jimmy was later responsible for the cult classic animation and Christmas tradition here in the UK, The Snowman, based on Raymond Briggs' work, as well as the scary and haunting nuclear war tale When the Wind Blows. Prior to production, a Hollywood trade paper announced that John Wayne would star in the film under the direction of Ingmar Bergman. In all likelihood, this was a joke either by the trade papers or the film's publicist. At the time, this was Corman's most expensive production, costing $2 million. However, it became a wise investment for Corman. It quickly made $1.7 million in the States on its opening weekend and went on to make $11 million. Corman reportedly sold international rights to Orion Pictures for $2.5 million and cable rights to HBO for $750,000. The movie also did extremely well on the home rental market. Much of the budget allegedly went on to paying the salaries of George Peppard and Robert Vaughn. Since both of the screenwriters' Sayles' previous films were low-budget productions, to save on costs, the film was produced in Corman's own studio, his renowned lumberyard facility in Venice, California. Richard Thomas stars as Shad, a young Akira farmer who looks for mercenaries to save his people. Richard, of course, will be familiar to a generation as John Boy from the long-running 70s TV show The Waltons. He had a long and successful career in TV and TV movies, notable for starring as the grown-up Bill in the 90s version of It. Robert Vaughn plays Gelt, a notorious assassin with an intergalactic bounty on his head. Despite his vast riches, all he wants now is a meal and a place to hide. Vaughn played Lee in The Magnificent Seven, essentially the same character as Gelt. Most will know Robert as Napoleon Solo from the 60s TV series The Man from U.N.C.L.E. However, I will always think of him as Ross Webster from Superman 3.
I asked you to kill Superman, and you're telling me you couldn't even do that one simple thing.
John Saxon stars as Sada, the leader of the evil Malmori Raiders. He's very old and keeps himself alive using transplants to renew his body. John, a veteran actor, will be best known for his roles in Enter the Dragon and in Wes Craven's The Nightmare on Elm Street series. George Peppard stars as Space Cowboy, the only character from Earth. He's defined by his many one-liners.
Try one. Do you like it?
There's no dog in this.
Hydrolyzed vegetable protein, soybean meal, niacin, dextrose, and sodium nitrate flavoring. Yep, that's what we call meat back home.
George, of course, was a renowned Hollywood star, having starred with Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's, and later becoming Hannibal Smith, the leader of the A-Team in the hit 80s TV series. Daryl Ann Flugel stars as Nanelia, Dr. Hephaestus's beautiful daughter and Shad's love interest. Daryl Ann had previously starred in The Eyes of Laura Mars, and went on to star in low-budget movies like Scanner Cop and Darkman 2. Sybil Danning stars as Saint Exmin, a Valkyrie warrior looking to prove herself in battle. Sybil was a renowned star of budget movies of the 70s and 80s, such as the god-awful sequel Howling 2. Morgan Woodward plays Cayman. He has a score to settle with Sador for destroying his species. Morgan had starred in the original Star Trek series and co-starred with Richard Thomas on The Waltons. Marta Kristen plays Lux, an Akira who works on the early warning system and starts a relationship with Space Cowboy. Marta will be famous to fans of the original TV series Lost in Space, starring as Judy Robinson. Earl Bowen stars as Nesta, one of the 5 clones. Earl later went on to star in The Terminator and T2 as Dr. Silverman. Lynn Carley stars as Nell's voice, the computer which controls Shad's ship. Lynn was also a star of The Waltons. The farming world of Akira is threatened by the tyrannical warlord Sador, who rules the sinister Malmori Empire. His body parts deteriorating, is capturing and appropriating them from others. Sador's huge hammerhead dreadnought mounts a stellar converter, a weapon that turns planets into small stars. He demands that the peaceful Akira submit to him when he returns in 7 Risings of your Red Giants, or he will turn his stellar converter onto their planet. Zed, the planet's defender, too old and partially blind, offers his ship for the job if they can find a pilot. The ship is fast and well armed, but despite its AI navigation tactical computer Nell cannot defeat Sador alone. Shad, a young farmer who has piloted the ship, is well known to Nell, volunteers for the recruiting mission, seeking weapons. Shad goes to the space station of Dr. Hephaestus, an old friend of Zed's. The station is populated by mostly androids except for 2 humans, Hephaestus and his beautiful daughter Nanelia, who looks after him and the androids. The Doctor wants Shad to procreate with his daughter by force if necessary. Shad cannot bring himself to abandon his people. He convinces Nanelia to help him escape. She follows in her own ship, agreeing to split up to seek help. Shad encounters Cowboy, afraid to pilot from Earth, who is ambushed by space jackers while delivering a shipment of laser handguns to the planet Umatea. Shad fights off the jackers, saving Cowboy's life twice over. They arrive at Umatea just in time to watch Sador destroy the planet with his stellar converter. Lacking the fuel to carry his weapons back home, Cowboy offers them to the Akira instead. Shad talks Cowboy into sharing his vast knowledge of gunslinging with the Akira. Shad then meets a set of 5 alien clones named Nestor, who share a group consciousness. They admit their life is incredibly dull, since their whole race shares one mind. In order to be entertained, they have sent 5 members to join Shad's cause. Next, Shad recruits Gelt, a wealthy assassin who cannot show himself on any civilized planet. Gelt offers his services in return for being allowed to live peacefully among the Akira. Shad is approached by Saint Exmin of the Valkyrie Warriors. She is a headstrong woman looking to prove herself in battle. Shad, however, finds her annoying and wishes she would go away, but she tags along. Nanelia is captured by a reptilian slaver named Cayman. Cayman possesses a powerful ship with an eclectic crew of aliens, including the Kelvin. She explains to Cayman that they are seeking mercenaries for a war against Sador. Cayman takes up their cause in return for Sador's head, who destroyed Cayman's homeworld years ago. Shad returns to Akira with his band of mercenaries and waits Sador's return. One of the most impressive aspects of Battle Beyond the Stars is the model work, matte paintings and general visual effects, as Corman didn't want to pay the quoted $2 million fee for the special and visual effects work. He initially hired James Cameron as a model maker for his studio, after being impressed with his short film Xenogenesis. When the original art director for the film was fired, Cameron was recommended by longtime working partner and future wife Gail Ann Hurd, who was at the time working for Corman. He became responsible for the majority of the film's special effects, or as Cameron later put it, production design and art direction. This was Cameron's first big break in the entertainment industry, and it helped to propel his career forward. He started working on special effects and production design of interior sets. Cameron paid great attention to detail and hardly slept for weeks whilst working on the film. His hard work paid off, along with the brothers Dennis and Robert Skotak, who went on to produce the effects for John Carpenter in Escape from New York, and later with Cameron on The Abyss and Aliens. The special effects is one of the film's aspects that were highly received by both fans and critics, opening the door for their later successes. According to her, actor Bill Paxton was also employed on set as a carpenter, which is where she first met him, before working with him and Cameron on Aliens. Cameron is said to be responsible for one of the more, shall we say, unique designs in the film, that of the starship Nell. Apparently the reason for Nell's female form is that she's a strong female, and the ship's design should reflect that. I must admit, I was a little slow picking this up as a kid, and always thought it was a weird design, looking more like a horse crossed with a crab, although I do have a huge fondness for Nell's crazy design. Corman made the most of these effects as starship footage was reused in another Roger Corman science fiction film, Space Raiders, as well as the ultra-low budget Corman features StarQuest II, Dead Space, and Forbidden World. The same footage was also reused in the Laserdisc video game Astron Built. The film score was composed by the late James Horner, becoming his third movie score. He had previously worked on Corman's Humanoids from the Deep, and the producer brought him back for Battle Beyond the Stars. The score features several cues that would become regular staples of Horner's many science fiction and adventure movie scores. Noted similarities between these scores and those for later films such as Krull and Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan, and its sequel Star Trek III The Search for Spock. Horner would go on to eventually win an Academy Award for Best Original Score for Cameron's Titanic. The soundtrack was later recycled by Corman for Raptor and other films. A section of Horner's score was reused in Space Raiders. The supervising sound editor responsible for special effects, such as Robert Vaughan's laser shot based on Clint Eastwood's .44 Magnum from Dirty Harry, was David Udell, a regular contract worker for Corman's films. They explained some of the movie's sounds. Each of the 7 spaceships had their own sound. The Nestor ship's sound was made from human voices, generated by the community choir from his hometown college in California. Robert Vaughan's ship was based on the recordings of a dragster. It's easier to note some familiar stock sound effects such as the laser blasts from Battlestar Galactica. I was lucky enough to see Battle Beyond the Stars upon its release. Like many 8-year-olds, loved the film, watching it many times on its home rental release. I didn't watch it for many years, and when I did a few years back I was pleasantly surprised it's still an enjoyable space western romp. While the score and the fantastic miniature map paintings really hold up, the cast all do a great job. George Papard is charismatic as Cowboy, while Richard Thomas pretty much carries the movie story, whilst having a great rapport with the sassy Nell.
I did it. I didn't think, I just did it.
You had to, kid. You done fine.
Although Vaughan's Cold Gelt performance can often look more disinterested than Cold Killer, John Sayles' punchy script keeps things moving on at a rapid pace, although admittedly this is a little close to the bone sometimes. Dealing with rape in a western is fine, but in a kid's space opera feels a little out of place, and there seems quite a lot of interesting sex in the script.
I could do wonders for that boy. I would recharge his capacitors, stimulate his solenoid, tingle, dingle, dangle, prangle his transistors. You know, sex.
Of course, where the movie does suffer is in its shoestring production, makeup and costume design. The ship's interiors are effective, however, once you notice milk bottle crates, the spaceship corridors made out of spray-painted McDonald's containers, and the rented computer banks that probably take away rather than add to the used world. Whilst Bezos and Browns were once the vision of the future, these two placed the movie in a more made-for-TV world. The cast of actors all sporting perm mullets and 70s moustaches, whilst the ground battle seems looking more like 70s laser tag than anything else. As many of the spaceship battle shots are reused, they sometimes take away from the desired effect, and the Malmori pilots look really cheap. Despite these initial obvious flaws, I still have a nostalgic love for this movie. Deemed as a Star Wars rip-off, I don't think this is true, but apart from the Stellar Converter being a poor relation to the Death Star, and Chad's obvious comparison to Luke Skywalker, Battle Beyond the Stars is closer to its western roots. It's got a lot of heart and is well acted, never dull, and mostly looks more expensive than it is. As mentioned earlier, Horner's score adds so much to the movie, and it's a joy to listen to on its own. If you haven't watched Battle Beyond the Stars for a while, I would highly recommend you do to rekindle your childhood. Or if you've never watched it, don't let the 80s disco look put you off. Battle Beyond the Stars is one of my favourite childhood movies. I still enjoy it 40 years after its release. There's also a prequel comic book set 30 years before the Battle Beyond the Stars film. This was launched by Blue Water Productions in March 2010. Battle Amongst the Stars is a 4-part miniseries that tells the story of how Zed, the old man, began his adventures from the planet Akir with Nell. If you want to watch Battle Beyond the Stars, there is a fantastic version by Shout Factory, who released it on DVD and Blu-ray in 2011 as part of the Roger Corman Cult Classics series. It's also available to watch on Amazon Prime.
Beautiful. I'd love to see a pro work.
He's had a lot of practice. Nell, I think we may have bought ourselves a chance. Let's head for the surface.
If you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit the bell notification button to keep up to date with my latest content. And if you want to get in touch and keep up to date with my channel, please consider following my social media pages on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you on my next review. Thanks a lot, take care, and I'll speak to you guys soon.